Please subscribe to this channel and also turn on your notification bell in order to get our latest updates. The interim government, the IG of the Ambazonia struggle, gets a new president in the name of Marianta Njomia. Marianta Njomia, the first female president of the IG, is said to have replaced Samuel Sako, who was impeached and removed early February 2022 by the Restoration Council, which is the legislative arm of the IG. Sources say Marianta was Undersecretary of Education in the IG and led various Ambazonia associations of the Ambazonian struggle. She takes over the helm of the IG of the Ambazonian struggle that is divided into several factions. In her first official speech on Facebook last week, Marianta promised resolving the divisions in the IG and called for unity to prosecute their struggle, made the English-speaking provinces ungovernable for the Cameroon government in an attempt to bring Yaoundé to a negotiating table to put an end to the crisis. Marianta takes over at a time when the Cameroon government thought that calm was regaining in the southwest and northwest speaking regions of Cameroon and that only a handful of people were still standing with the separatists. The crisis in the two English-speaking regions of Cameroon started when English-speaking teachers and lawyers protested the dominance of English in official government businesses and education. The government responded with a crackdown and separatists took up weapons. The separatists have been fighting since 2017 to carve out an independent English-speaking state called Ambazonia in majority French-speaking Cameroon.
Fellow British Southern Cameroonians, Ambazonians, you have elected me to lead the liberation struggle at this critical moment on a transitional mandate of 6 months. You have chosen me to quench the storms that have characterized months of internal conflict within our interim government. You have mandated me to reinvigorate the liberation struggle, especially in Ground Zero, that has been the major victim each time the diaspora base of our IG is under distress. I cannot do this without your support, assistance, and commitment. I count on every one of you to undertake this task, and I pledge to do so without favor or fear for Ambazonia. The recalibration team of selfless patriots has worked tirelessly in the past months to ensure the pioneer APP body, which was constituted after the ASSC Berlin 2019 conference, remains the legitimate body to manage the affairs of our counties and LGAs in the persecution of our liberation struggle. I would like to thank the Restoration Council, all Ambazonians in the diaspora, Ground Zero and Ground One for your warm welcome and messages of congratulations on my role as a President of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia. Your enthusiasm, hope, and words of encouragement offer the reassurance that collectively we can and we must engage proactively to pilot our God-ordained liberation struggle. It is an honor and a privilege for me to serve the land of my birth, Southern Cameroon's Ambazonia. Please join me to observe a minute of silence in honor, respect, and pride of the fallen heroes that have left us prematurely. May their souls rest in peace and power. Amen. In my inaugural speech of Saturday, the 5th of March 2022, I pledged to address the main issues related to the just-ended constitutional and leadership crisis, as well as the questionable conduct, controversial activities, and flawed management of our liberation struggle by the former impeached President, Dr. Samuel Ikome Sako, and most especially the immediate way forward packaged into the IG recalibration for Ground Zero strategy that will set the pace for an accountable management of our liberation struggle, with absolute priority to Ground Zero. Dear Ambazonians, we have been drilled for the past years by the previous administration with talks without action, to the extent of gradually transforming the working sessions of our liberation struggle into a preaching sermon, to solicit offertories for undefined and unmaterialized projects. Hence, the desperation and disappointment of many of you in the unproductive modus operandi and self-defense inertia of the previous administration. In this, I say we leave all that in the past and build a new future for Ambazonia. A future where every Ambazonian, be they refugees or IDPs, can be proud to have brothers and sisters in the diaspora who show care and love for them. Show that they put them first. So moving forward, fellow Ambazonians, I crave your indulgence to recalibrate our mindset to that of being our brothers and sisters keepers, to that of being patriotic warriors, to that of being bold and strong in asking for complete transparency and accountability from ourselves and the leadership. To this end, I am happy to inform all Ambazonians that despite the fraudulent and unconstitutional attempts by the former impeached president and his cabal to usurp Ambazonian resources or hijack Ambazonian institutions, we of this new leadership have been working round the clock on 6 recovery missions. Your county and LGA funds in the National Treasury, your funds reconciled in the CID platform, the People's ABC Amber TV, which you have been funding for the past years, the IG official website, ambazoniagov.org, the Unmasked program for the victims of the genocide war, and the IG representation in ACT, the Ambazonian Coalition Team. We have activated all administrative, technical, and legal tools necessary against the fraudulent and illegal usurpation of IG institutions and working platforms by the former impeached and removed President, Dr. Sako, and his cohort. We will not spare an inch to safeguard complete recovery of these resources that belong to the people. It is very unfortunate that the insecurity in Ambazonia, originating from the genocide war declared on us by La République du Cameroon, has impaired the right to education for our children for the past 4 years. As a mother and a professional in the field of education, the pain arising from our kids not going to school under safe conditions is more and more unbearable. Baby Carolers and baby Brandy were both caught in crossfire in itinerary between home and school. The interim government fully stands to foster child education under safe conditions. Hence, we will continue to work with the international community and the international institutions that be to ensure they uphold both the responsibility to protect and the right to child education through international punitive measures that will pressure La République du Cameroon to demilitarize the territory of British Southern Cameroons, and the effective sanctioning of a conducive schooling environment through the establishment of buffer zones throughout Ambazonia for our kids' education. Our vision, mission, and commitment during this 6 months transitional leadership period will be to work together to ensure that the modus operandi of this interim government is recalibrated to defending the values of justice, unity, and democracy as prescribed in our constitutional arm of code. Respect of the Constitution, building robust institutions, leadership for, by, and with the people, hence, a leadership answerable and accountable to the people. Prioritize our resources to defending the lives, dignity, and integrity of all Ambazonian citizens. We will work on sustaining all Ambazonian restoration fighters with track record of fighting the enemy, La République, and disincentivize the infighting amongst them. The institutions of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia. Every successful democratic government owes success to the structures that are established to provide the foundation on which that government is built. One of the attributes of such a structure is that which allows for the autonomy of the main arms of government, being the legislative, executive, and the judiciary. The autonomy of the 3 arms of government allows for checks and balances between the various arms of government, as called for in our Constitution, and this helps to prevent the abuse of power, cronyism, corruption, and other negative vices. It is rather unfortunate that the previous administration took deliberate steps to undermine and weaken the structures of our government on which our democracy rests. I pledge to strengthen and protect our Constitution and government institutions, such as the Restoration Council, the Judiciary Council, the Ethics Committee, the National Audit Committee, and the Office of the Comptroller General, and to allow for transparency so that every department and/or government official, including myself, will be held to the same standard of integrity and justice. 60 years and counting, Southern Cameroonian MPs and senators have been stepping stones that La République du Cameroon uses as proxy to access our territorial space. Calls for them to back out of La République du Cameroon houses have fallen on deaf ears. Maybe the elimination of Mbandam and Honorable Kemendi by La République du Cameroon can serve as a pointer to the fact that they are not part of La République du Cameroon. It is never too late to do the right thing. Southern Cameroonians and Ambazonians continue to call all MPs and senators to desert La République du Cameroon houses and come back home. Let's join hands and push out the occupier from our land. The illegitimate military occupation of Southern Cameroon's Ambazonia by La République du Cameroon forces is aided by proxies amongst us. That's the enablers, the blacklegs, and the sellouts. All facets of La République du Cameroon military is an alien force in our territory. Culturally and linguistically, we are different people. Without proxies amongst us, La République du Cameroon have no leverage to fight Ambazonia even for 1 year. Can all Southern Cameroonians come to the realization that we are one people, one nation, and fighting for one liberation struggle? All Southern Cameroonians. Anybody of Southern Cameroonian origin helping La République du Cameroon directly or indirectly to kill us and destroy our land We urge you to stop now. Going forward, if we observe that the proxies are still helping La République du Cameroon to access our territory and kill our people, the IG will be forced to launch Operation House Cleaning to reject and to eject this unpatriotic behavior in efforts to free our homeland. It is 2 years and counting after the sham general national dialogue, call it monologue, took place, and nothing to show for it. You have failed House of Chiefs, failed regional conciliators, failed resolutions. A smokescreen hurriedly put in place to perturb an internationally mediated Swiss process. Ambazonians once met in Formbad in 1961 and arrived at a gentlemanly experiment, sitting on a round table as nations with equal status. Shockingly, a group of overzealous people, aided by France, reduced them to a special status in broad daylight. It is only in La République du Cameroon where we have seen a political madness tailored by a foreign country called France. To Paul Biya and his rogue regime, how many signs do you want to see that Southern Cameroonians have rejected any internal solution? Do you want our sons in primary school to remind you that Southern Cameroon has internationally recognized borders and was the first democratic country in sub-Saharan Africa from 1953 to 1961 and by extension to 1972? Do you want our daughters in kindergarten to refresh your minds that we opted out of the Enugu Parliament in 1953 without fighting a war? 60 years is not a long time to forget so soon. That we joined La République du Cameroun, we did not join La République of Cameroon on a special status. We were a nation managing our own businesses. History has not forgotten that Buea was the capital of Southern Cameroon. There was Mount Sako, not Mount Cameroon. There was Victoria, not Limbe. There was Powercam, not Sunel. There was Snake, not Camwater. There was Southern Cameroon Lottery and not Tycel. There was Southern Cameroon and not Northwest or Southwest. Mr. Biya, you and your cabal have dismembered the territory of Southern Cameroon. Do not forget, it is not bare land that anybody can just move in and out of. It is a people with a culture and an identity. These people, my people, our people, will fight to push you out. We say no to assimilation, no to black-on-black colonization showing its ugly face in Southern Cameroon's Ambazonia in the 21st century. This 2022 is preeminently the time to speak the truth to our suffering people on ground zero. I mean the whole truth. We must speak frankly without deceit. No need to shrink from honestly facing the problems of some of us in the diaspora created on ground zero. Our suffering people will no longer endure as they have done in the past. We will revive ground zero and make it ungovernable for La République du Cameroun. So permit me assert my firm belief that after all the bloodshed on our land, that the only thing we may fear at this stage is only fear itself. Our greatest primary task under this leadership is protecting our vulnerable people on ground zero, while making every county ungovernable for the enemy, from Fako to Dongamantum. This can be realized in a couple of months if we face it wisely, tactically, and courageously under the recalibrated strategy embraced by this interim government. It can be accomplished in part if those of us living comfortably in diaspora start treating everything as our suffering people on ground zero would treat any emergency they face on the ground. I am calling on every Ambazonian, friends, brothers, sisters, mothers, fathers, to make our ancestors proud of us for striving to defeat neighboring La République du Cameroon in this war they declared on us. We must stop any leader trying to enrich themselves with any penny, any dollar contributed to persecute our liberation struggle. We must do the right thing, which is protecting our vulnerable people on ground zero and taking back our country in the shortest possible time by any means necessary. We must succeed in paying minimum monthly upkeeping appreciation to any valiant brother or sister that's willing to use their innate talents and abilities to defend homeland, and not paying any one of us living comfortably in the diaspora as we have done in the past. Hello, Ambazonia. Let's get a job now, all of us. Our people are suffering on ground zero. I am a strong Ambazonian woman, just like my fellow valiant sisters on ground zero. Permit me borrow a quote from Sojourner Truth, an American abolitionist and women's rights activist born in slavery in Rifton, New York, United States of America. I quote, "It is the mind that makes the body. If the first woman God ever made was strong enough to turn the world upside down all alone, these women together ought to be able to turn it back and get it right side up again. A good number of my Ambazonian sisters and brothers, both on ground zero and diaspora, will get it right and get it right side up again for the sake of our children being murdered by La République du Cameroon. My dear sisters, the mothers, please join me to commit to undertake this noble patriotic mission of Ambazonian statehood restoration for our children and prosperity. We say no to any form of gender division fueled by any group of female renegades running around under the umbrella of fighting for women's rights, when La République is killing both our men, women, and children indiscriminately on daily basis. I am a feminist myself, yes, I am, but I refuse to focus on misplaced priorities. Ambazonians, under the extermination of La République du Cameroon, no matter the gender, they are being killed. We rise and fall together with our brothers. We now got our valiant sisters stepping up to defend homeland on the ground and providing intelligence when needed, while some women amongst us in the diaspora spend time playing politics in the name of Ambazonian women. Like, seriously. I would like to call the attention now to all Ambazonian activists and revolutionists. We appreciate the laudable job you are doing for the struggle and pray you muster more strength and wisdom for your actions and the words you pronounce. There might be some things you do or say that can rather destroy than advance the cause of our liberation struggle. So I will plead with you all to be vigilant, respectful, and professional every time. Raining insults, castigating, bullying your own fathers, mothers, uncles, aunties, brothers, sisters, some of our elderly in this liberation struggle. Even if they are at fault, you can bitterly criticize them, condemn their actions without insulting or castigating their persons. That is not the culture of true Southern Cameroonians, who have been respected from time immemorial as being well-groomed and respectable people. Think of the fact that what some of our elderly, like late Pa Litumbe and others, were still capable of doing in their 80s and 90s. For this, our liberation struggle is what 100 young people who keep insulting such elderly today put together will not be able to accomplish or achieve. It is time to stop these distasteful insults that don't take us one step forward, but draw our liberation struggle many steps back instead. Maybe we forget that what we spend hours vomiting out there on social media is not only watched by Ambazonians, but also by an audience around the globe who get turned off by their distaste and withdraw the sympathy and look at us like ill-bred jokers. Despite all the attacks President Trump had from critics, hardly did you ever find any of his people spend time insulting his person than his works. We need teenagers, youths, older ones, the elderly. This liberation needs all of us for this struggle to move successfully, because there are things one group, especially our elderly, can know and handle better than the other groups. No country has ever been run exclusively by only one set of people, one set of age group. No, it doesn't work like that. It's only a mixture that enhances the productivity. My dear beloved Ambazonians, brothers and sisters, this IG is a people's government and must grow strategically to meet any internationally prescribed criteria or quality that will accelerate the pace of our liberation struggle. We will, therefore, with your consent, be open to building bridges through unity, collaboration, and reconciliation with all Ambazonian movements and entities that stand for the total and unconditional independence, restoration of Southern Cameroons, and that possess the verifiable track record of fighting the enemy, La République du Cameroun, diplomatically, in self-defense, and by advocacy. To our brothers and sisters constituting civil population on ground zero, this is our liberation struggle in which our own children have taken the challenges to put their lives in the front line to defend the ideology of a free Ambazonia for us all. Please, we must be the protectors against any enemy manipulation or collaborate with them. We must collaborate with them on this patriotic mission that they have embarked upon. The enemy is La République du Cameroun regime, the Bulu Betty genocidal military squad that is on a mission of extermination of our origin, not our own brothers or sisters with whom we can always disagree to agree for the sake of liberating homeland in the quickest time possible. The cost of this war waged on us by La République du Cameroun has seen our people, men, women, the elderly, the children, including newborn babies and infants, flee their land to seek refuge in Nigeria, Ghana, and many other countries around the world. Over 500 villages have been set ablaze by the government forces of La République du Cameroun, with people burnt alive in their houses. There are over 500,000 refugees in Nigeria, in camps where basic sanitation and feeding are just still a luxury. These camps have seen good numbers of refugees struck off the UN benefits list due to insufficient funds to keep up with the stipends, which have been irregular in payments. There are so many Ambazonians still trapped in forests in our homeland whose survival is left at the hands of nature. Over 1.5 million people internally displaced, and the number of deaths recorded is over 35,000. The arbitrary arrests and detention has resulted to over 10,000 people languishing in prisons around La Republic, including the Naira 10. The peculiar problem consistent amongst different groups of victims is hunger, starvation, lack of money for medical care, no shelter, no beds. The Department of Health and Social Services, HSS, has been working tirelessly, stretched beyond its limits, but refused to break, to meet the basic survival needs of these, our brothers and sisters, and to give them hope of our dream of a free Ambazonia that will certainly come to pass. The pain of many of our people, the pain that they're going through is unbearable. This government is committed to elevating the pain and the suffering through our continuous moral, financial, and spiritual support, as what will see them and us through. I would like to use this opportunity to acknowledge the work done by the Department of HSS and all of you, especially the trustees and donors of my charity, Friends of British Southern Cameroons, the Southern Cameroons Women UK, Sky Italy, Omega Fire Healing Ministry, led by Reverend Akaya, Southern Cameroons Ambazonian California, Ma Helmina and her congregation, countries, regions, counties and LGAs, just to name a few, for your consistency, and all individual donors, all of whom have sacrificed time and money to ensure that the basic needs of our people are being met. The success was a result of a collective effort, and I look forward to working with you all as we continue our journey to Buea. My fellow Ambazonians, my fellow ARF, my fellow self-defense team members, I would like to take this opportunity to commend the great work you have been doing that has taken us where we are in this liberation struggle today. I would also like to give my special recognition and thanks to FMA, the Field Marshal of Ambazonia, Field Marshal Isbu, Field Marshal Tenkobo, Okpao Njomio Njomi Tayepte, FM No Pity, Grandpa of Bali, General Okoru, all the generals, commanders, and the foot soldiers that are taking the risk every single day to defend homeland. 21 gun salutes to my Indian County FM 10 Kubu and your team for the spectacular and powerful brave action you carried out to welcome and congratulate me on my new role as the President and CIC. Special thanks to all those who have been working behind the scenes to support our ARF. There will be no struggle by now if it wasn't for your sacrifices. Despite the challenges, you have not given up on the quest of statehood restoration for our motherland. You and I can agree that there is a lot of work to be done so far. As far as self-defense is concerned, we know the challenges, we know the difficulties some of you face in the hands of La Republique's agents who pose as ARF, and some ARF who have gone out of the creed and the ground rules to cause pain and harm on genuine Ambazonians. So far, we have been able to make ARF a household name in Ambazonia. The world knows what is expected of them because of their creed and ground rules and rules of engagement. Our ARF are now masters of local manufacturing, making it impossible for La Republique to come and go as they will in many LGAs. Going forward, I would like to see a more robust local manufacturing, which will incorporate modern technology to eliminate or reduce the number of casualties on the ARF and take the war to La République safe havens. I have already started my consultations with the self-defense leadership in the DSS, ANSC, and the LGA to find ways to better deal with the problems affecting the effectiveness of the ARF and their well-being as well as their families. My administration will be devoting up to 90% of the resources of this struggle to ground zero. While we do this, we will not lose sight of some who are using the name and title of ARF to do harm to Ambazonian citizens. Those fighters who have abandoned the enemy and turned their weapons on their fellow ARF will be dealt with accordingly. We will prioritize our resources to defending the lives, dignity, and integrity of all Ambazonian citizens. We will work on sustaining all Ambazonian restoration fighters with track records of fighting the enemy, but will strongly disincentivize criminal acts such as sexual abuse of our female citizens, abductions and ransom taking, and infighting amongst Ambazonian restoration fighters. We say no to that. It is time for us to come together and fight the disease that has been affecting our abilities. When I say we, I mean the ARF, the civilians on the ground, the stakeholders in the diaspora, the members of the interim government in all her institutions. We will increase our efforts to seek and address all enemies, including those in the house working as agents against our goals. That's our God-ordained Ambazonian liberation struggle. All the genuine ARF on ground zero will have our attention, and we will be extending a hand of collaboration and sponsorship to any fighter on the ground who is fighting La République du Cameroon. We will do all we can do to make sure ground zero is hot again. Until all our enemies are defeated, we will not relent. Our biggest failures on ground zero and defense apparatus revolve around emergency improvisation, which is something we can no longer risk for our ARF. We are compelled to create a Supreme Liberation Council with the commanders ANSA and counties representation. In the council, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought. Upon the fundraising which I will now embark upon, fellow Ambazonians, we are at a critical point in our liberation struggle, which requires every single conscientious Ambazonian citizen to renew their pledge to sacrifice, serve, and save the lives of our suffering brothers and sisters on ground zero and ground one. Your IG will therefore be launching, starting now, the Ambazonian Restoration Fee, ARF. Why ARF, you may ask? Because the IG recalibration for ground zero prioritizes on getting 90% of the funds raised in the diaspora directly to the executors, being the ARF. Because, in respect of our common goal to free homeland and the distinct but complementary roles between ground zero and the diaspora in the prosecution of this liberation struggle, ground zero is proudly tagged as the force, hence AR forces, whilst the diaspora will honorably commit economically to fuel the force, hence ARF for fee. Your ARF subscription will automatically and proudly crown you as a diaspora soldier. Your annual subscription will be verifiable evidence of your stake for our ARF, Hence, our collective commitment slogan for the Ambazonia Restoration Fee will be Diaspora ARF, subscription to fuel Ground Zero ARF empowerment. The subscription modalities for the annual Ambazonia Restoration Fee commitment for all Ambazonian citizens will be presented in our next APP meeting, our next Amba Peace Plan meeting. Considering the need for immediate engagement in reinvigorating firepower on the ground, I am therefore counting on you launching the Ambazonia Restoration Fee kickstart the subscription challenge by requesting for the enrollment of at least 1,000 selfless Ambazonian liberators who will be committing to sacrifice a minimum of $200 before the end of March 2022 in order to guarantee for the minimum kickstart budget required to empower modern farming in Ambazonia through the acquisition of at least one Magnum pipeline for irrigation in all our 13 counties. Let your Ambazonian Restoration Fee subscription walk the talks. 90% of our ARF and 10% for the victims of the genocide war from today. Let the Ambazonian Restoration Fee kick up subscription challenge begin now. Together we can, together we will, together we must free homeland. I pledge my unflinching loyalty to the cause. Long live the Federal Republic of Ambazonia. Long live the people of Ambazonia. Short live the Ambazonian independence restoration liberation struggle. In God we trust.